Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. And I want to start by saying that I recognize all of the good work that is done by the staff and the volunteers at Hockey Canada and all the different sports federations in the country. And I don't view this as an adversarial proceeding. We're here to get information on behalf of Canadians, and hopefully we'll all treat it as such. So I want to start with the, you were served, you said on May the 3rd, there was a claim filed on April 20th, 2022, that was a claim against Hockey Canada, the Canadian Hockey League, and the 8 John Doe plaintiffs who were alleged to have been involved in the incident. All of the John Doe plaintiffs were served at the Hockey Canada address. How did you transmit that claim to the John Doe plaintiffs?
We actually were never formally served with the claim. Our offices remain closed due to the pandemic, and so the attendance at our office is quite sporadic. And so we received a copy of the statement of claim through the Canadian Hockey League, and our counsel spoke to the plaintiff's counsel, and we waived the requirement for serving, and we communicated with the players' representatives.
So the 8 different players, you communicated directly with their counsel or their representative?
Their representative.
Okay. When Hockey Canada settled the lawsuit, did you settle on behalf of only Hockey Canada, or Hockey Canada, the Canadian Hockey League, and the 8 John Doe plaintiffs, or defendants?
We settled on behalf of all the defendants.
So you paid out a settlement, whatever that amount was, because it's confidential, on behalf of all of the different defendants in the case?
We took the responsibility on the basis that we wanted to respect the young woman's right to privacy. You can appreciate that we've known about this since June of 2018. We received the statement of claim through the Canadian Hockey League. We took responsibility to speak to plaintiffs' counsel, and we entered into settlement discussions immediately.
I understand, but just so to be clear, that means that none of the 8 alleged accused contributed to the settlement amount, correct?
Hockey Canada took responsibility, yes.
Okay. So let me come back then. You were aware from 2018 of the identity of the accused. Has any disciplinary action been taken against any of the alleged accused in any way?
For clarity, we are not aware. We were not able to confirm the identity of the accused.
Okay, so that's different than what I understood.
Through our third-party investigator.
So let me understand then, let me come back then. So they served you with the documents. You were never advised of who the 8 John Doe accused were. And from the independent investigation you did through Hain and Hutchinson, because of whatever reasons of lack of cooperation or whatever, you were never actually able to ascertain who the 8 people were?
Our third-party investigator, as you can appreciate, we wanted a third party to conduct that investigation for us. If they were able to confirm and there would have been discipline, it actually went to a 3-person adjudication panel. That third party nor the London Police Service were able to confirm who the accused were.
Okay, so in Hockey Canada, let me just ask, from your own perspective, and while protecting the identity of the victim here, or the alleged victim, never thought it necessary to try internally, from the limited number of players that were on this team, to determine the actions of the accused?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Well, so there's a very limited number of players that potentially could have been involved in this case. And I understand that, while protecting the identity of the victim, and you always obviously want to do that, and you obviously wanted to respect her wishes, did Hockey Canada take any proactive steps other than the investigation by Hain and Hutchinson, where you advised the players it was up to them whether they wanted to cooperate to figure out which players may have been involved in this incident and to get their stories?
We turned that over to our third-party investigator, and we encouraged strongly those players to participate in that investigation. All players to participate in that investigation.
Did various committees of the board of directors become aware of the case, and did the board and various committees approve the settlement?
I don't think it would be various committees. The board of directors were involved in our discussions, and the board of directors were updated on a regular basis through 2018 through until I believe, sometime in 2020. And we had a discussion with our current board of directors, because we have had some changes, obviously, in the middle of May.
1 minute, Anthony.
Thank you.
Middle of May, and they endorsed management proceeding on the advice of council with the settlement.
Thank you. Let me ask, were the funds that were paid to the alleged victim here paid through insurance proceeds? Did insurance take over the defense of the claim and settle through insurance, or did Hockey Canada pay from Hockey Canada funds?
No, for clarity, we've been asked that question. We look forward to an audit confirming this for you and for all Canadians. We liquidated a portion of our investments to pay for the settlement, and that is set in kept in a separate account from what our government funding would be, our business development and sponsorship funding, our ticket revenues, merchandising, etc.
Thank you very much. I think that's probably my time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, yes.
Gentlemen, I assume you're all aware of the Jenner and Block report on the Brad Aldrich affair at the Chicago Blackhawks, correct? Yes. So in that case, the Blackhawks chose transparency. They made the report completely available. And so I'm wondering, would you reconsider the issue of the report that you received from Hennon Hutchinson to allow the public at least to understand if there's needs for redactions related to attorney-client privilege? That's understandable, and certainly anything that would necessarily reveal the victim or the alleged victim. But would you consider providing to this committee a redacted version of that report?
I would tell you, Madam Chair, thank you. I would tell you that an incomplete report is just that. And I don't know that it suffices, because beyond that, it's speculation. I don't think any of us in this room want to work beyond speculation.
So I think that's a very fair point, Mr. Rennie. So let me come back to the path that you're on, because I heard very well that you're on a path, and I appreciate the path. And it's great to have a forward-looking path that improves the organization's harassment and bullying policies going forward, and I'm going to have some questions about that. But I think people are probably, and I guess I am, just as an ordinary guy here, I'd been at a loss as to how that path doesn't include trying to get to the bottom of which were the 8 players involved in this incident, when there was a very limited number of players that could have been involved on this team at that event, and there were numerous other people that could testify as to who might have gone into that hotel room. So can I understand, are there any plans at this point at Hockey Canada or any of the member organizations to delve further into this matter, to, for example, create rules requiring those players involved in that incident to speak to investigators, I mean all the players that were at the event, to speak to investigators and to try to get to the bottom of who these players are? Because as Mr. Waugh said, it is of concern, whether they're playing in a league or coaching, that you may have perpetrators of a very serious alleged incident that were never even identified. And that's, I guess, the fact that they haven't been identified sort of shocks me. So please speak to that.
Sure. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would tell you that we seem to have forgotten about one individual in our conversation at this point in time, and that's the young woman. And by her request, we have not obviously identified her, and because she wishes not to, and also she wishes not to identify any of the players. With that being said, your questions are good ones, and don't get me wrong. I believe they're good. I think they're solid. They give us room to think, and we are here to learn, and we are here to understand what your constituents are looking for with respect to responses and guidance and a path forward that keeps everyone safe and healthy and enjoying sport, never mind just hockey. So I certainly understand that. I can tell you that what we've done since 2018 is recognize the value of a robust interrogation, if you will, of coaches that might in fact be interested in any of our high performance programs, from an under 16 level all the way up to and including under 20, and on the women's side, the women's national team. We are working hard to try to do the right thing here, recognizing that your feedback is important, recognizing that what you've addressed with us is really quite significant, and we will contemplate that and integrate those thoughts, should they become necessary and relevant to us, which they do today, into what it is we need to do moving forward. But as Mr. Smith had identified, we are on a journey here, and we take full responsibility for where we are today, and we wish to take full responsibility for where we go tomorrow. We owe that and have an obligation to every Canadian to do as much.
And I really appreciate that, and I appreciate your incredible sensitivity to the wishes of the alleged victim here. I think, though, that what I would say is, of course, her wishes have to be respected, certainly with respect to her own identity. Often you will have victims and then the same people will do the same thing to somebody else. And by not trying to identify the gentleman allegedly involved here, we may have other women that are potentially attacked in the future. So I don't think it's enough to simply rely on the desire of the victim not to disclose the identity of the potential perpetrators. So I ask you to think about that. I want to come back to Mr. Julian's question. Has Hockey Canada had other allegations of sexual misconduct by players in the last, let's say, 10 years?
So again, that's beyond this. Those details are beyond the scope of what we were expecting for today. I did have an opportunity to speak to our staff who are responsible for that. Mr. Rennie made reference to the fact that we've recently hired a director responsible for safe sport, and she is new to the role and just getting up to speed. My understanding is that we've had 1 to 2 cases on an annual basis over the last 5 to 6 years. I apologize, I can't give you more details
Totally
than that.
fair, totally fair.
And can I just close off? I would tell you that 1 in the last 5 to 6 years, not 1 to 2 each year, 1 in the last 5 to 6 years is too many, and that's why we're driven to change the culture in this game, as Mr. Rennie made reference to.
I appreciate it. One other question.
That's what I think you've ended, Anthony. Sorry.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to ask if they'd enter into any other settlement agreements. So perhaps can you maybe just reaffirm that you haven't entered into any other settlement agreements?
I believe back to, as Mr. Waugh said earlier, the Graham James situation, I believe there were settlement agreements over the years related to those incidents.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, you had mentioned that you had no new evidence today that would allow you to change what happened in 2018 or 2019 when your investigator came back to you and said they couldn't do anything further. Did you know everything that was in the statement of claim that came from the alleged victim that you found out on May the 3rd when you received the claim?
No, we did not. And I believe I mentioned earlier there are things in the statement of claim that, again, we can clearly outline that are not accurate.
Okay, but you have new information. For example, did you have previously the birth dates? You have in the statement of claim, you have the year that all of the alleged perpetrators were born in. Did you have that information before?
No, we did not.
So you do have new information then to go back to, your third-party law firm, Hayne & Hutchinson, to say we do have new information that we would perhaps enable us to identify some of the alleged perpetrators. Do you not?
I think that's maybe something we can take away from this proceeding and maybe discuss with Hayne & Hutchinson. I would tell you that our approach and the approach and the advice that we had up until September of 2020, not 2019, September of 2020 was Hayne & Hutchinson conducted their investigation, and we were waiting on the...
I understand. I understand. I have very limited time, and I know that there's new information that I suggest you go back to Hayne & Hutchinson and try that again. Did you change the contracts that you entered into with players to join the national team? As soon as 2018 happened, you realized people didn't cooperate with the investigation. Did you change the contracts to require people joining the national team to cooperate with investigations?
I answered that question earlier. No, we did not.
Will you now do that?
I answered it earlier, and I said we're in discussion with our partners to change the signature of the code of conduct to compel people to participate in investigations.
Thank you very much.